Hi, and welcome to this I Teach You Plus presentation. This presentation is Functioning Course Technology and Tools, and it's presentation 5 of 5 in the Build a Course series. So my name is Kristen Bouffard, and what I'll be doing is sharing a presentation with you, so you don't have to watch me this whole time. And if you'll bear with me, what I'm going to do is screen share this presentation, and I'll try to keep an eye on the questions as they come up from you as the audience. So if you have a question and you're watching live, please feel free to ask it using the Q&A tool. And if I can't get to you while I'm speaking, I'll check at the end and make sure that I get your question in. So let's get started. And I'll screen share. There we go. Okay, functioning course technologies and tools. If you want to follow along, the link down in the bottom right-hand corner will get you to this presentation, and you'll be able to view it. It's viewable by the whole world. And there are some links that I'll be referring to, so in this presentation, you'll also be able to access these links. My name, like I said, is Kristen Bouffard. I am one of the instructional designers here at UAF eLearning and Distance Education. I've worked at e-learning for going on 13 years, so I'm excited to be able to do this workshop for you today. The Build a Course series that this presentation is building on top of is meant to help faculty and instructors get their courses ready for delivery, whether they're online courses or face-to-face courses. And if you want to backtrack and see what the other presentations in this series are about, you can click this image here on this slide, and it'll take you to a page that's linked to all of the Build a Course series presentations. And they're going to be available on our I Teach You website. So that is iteachu.uaf.edu. This session, like I said, is functioning course technology and tools. So because this is the last presentation in this series, we're going to be talking about issues related to course delivery. So the other presentations in this workshop talked about building your syllabus and creating content, putting together materials, developing learning activities, and then finally putting together effective assessments and measuring assessment as well. So this session is going to revolve around learning to work with the learning management system that you've chosen. It's going to talk a little bit more about course organization. And then finally, and what I'd like to spend the most time on, is building in efficiency into your course. So the big thing we want to think about here today is thinking through your semester step by step, and then putting together a plan that is going to help you get through that semester successfully. Which seems really easy, but there have been times where I've forgotten to do this, and it's been to my detriment. So let's first talk about selecting a learning management system, or LMS, you may hear people say. Your learning management system may be Blackboard, Canvas, Wordpress, Google tool. It all depends on what you've chosen for your particular course. Here at UAF, we use Blackboard by default, and that's normal. You can get support for Blackboard either from OIT or from us here at the e-learning office. We also help support the Canvas learning management system. We have WordPress multi-user installation, so you can set up a WordPress site on our community server. We also deal with Google tools and anything else that you're curious about using. I've heard that we currently have some instructors too who are working on Moodle. There are a number of learning management systems out there in the education universe. So if you're curious about something, please come in and ask your question to us. So I'm assuming that you are working on your course, you've selected a learning management system, and this is the point where we want to dig a little bit deeper into whatever platform you've chosen. So let's say it's Blackboard. You know that your course materials are going to be hosted in a Blackboard shell. Your course is set up, your materials are in there. Now is the time, before the semester begins, to take a little bit closer look at what Blackboard can help you do for your specific course. So you already know what you're going to be doing in your course through the semester. How can Blackboard help facilitate getting those things done in the most efficient way? So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about digging a little bit deeper. And just to get things started along that vein, the easiest thing to do is to Google Blackboard hacks. And it sounds really simple, but it's surprising what you'll get back as search results. You know, they always have those really catchy titles for articles these days. So it's, you know, like the top 10 ways to lose weight. Well, they do the same thing for Blackboard. So it's the top 10 ways to make your Blackboard class go more smoothly, or ways to hack your Blackboard class, or things you never thought would be easier in Blackboard. So Googling around a little bit will help you uncover some things that you may not have thought about doing with Blackboard that it can actually do. So once you've set up your course, you may be interested in learning how you can organize your grade center or set up adaptive release. So certain parts of the semester, the course materials are made available throughout the semester at particular times. Managing the grade center so you have specific views that help you as you're working through the semester with your students. All of these things are possible in Blackboard. They're possible in Canvas. There are things that we can help with as far as managing your course materials in Wordpress. If there's something that you're thinking about for the upcoming semester in your particular learning management system, and you'd like to see if it's possible, please let us know, ask the question. We've probably either looked into it or we have somebody who's asked the question, and we can help out. So digging deeper, learning more about your learning management system, there's a lot of information that's already out on the web. And then we have course organization, which seems pretty simple too. So making sure all of the pieces of your course are connected. Really important, but a lot of times we forget to step back and make sure that this happens. So what we're looking for here is clarity and manageability. So you've put your course together, it's all in Blackboard, or it's between Blackboard and Wordpress, or maybe you have it set up in Canvas. At this point in the development of your course, what we want to do is step back and look at the course through the lens of a new student coming in for the first time. How do they interpret your class? How do they navigate through the learning management system? How do they find the things that you want them to find, and is that possible? Are things presented in the most clear ways? So sometimes it's really hard for us to do as instructors because we've put our course together. We know how we would move through that course to find all of the course materials, to find all of the resources, to find the assignments, and then to submit the assignments too. We know the intention for the course, but our students may not have such a clear picture of what the semester is going to look like. So we want to step back and go through step by step in the semester and make sure that everything is as clear as it can be for students. And if you have somebody who can look through your course with you, that's even better. Having somebody that will help you just click through links and make sure instructions are clear and course materials are linked to assignments and instructions are clear, that's a really valuable thing and simple thing too that you can ask a friend or a peer to do. And if you have neither of those, please come down to the e-learning office. We can sit down with you and your course and just click through and make sure that everything is connected and connected well. And then along that same vein, it's great that things are clear and easy to find, but we also want to make sure that there's a balance struck between clarity and manageability. So at some point, you're going to teach this course again. And so if you roll the course over into Blackboard, or if you copy a WordPress site with your course materials into a new WordPress site, what is that going to look like? We don't want it to take a lot of time on your end, editing dates, editing instructions, cleaning up links. So we want to make sure that where we have instructions and where we're linking within a course and course resources, that those links are manageable from semester to semester, because we don't want to be updating dates for the course in 50 different places, because that'll take entirely too much time, and inevitably there's going to be some mistakes made, and it happens, but we want to minimize those as much as possible. So we've talked about learning a little bit more about your learning management system. We've talked about course organization. Let's talk about efficiency, because I think this is where we can make the most of our time here, and we can make our lives much more simple. Let me switch back here. I lost my window, sorry. So efficiency. We know there are some things that are going to come up throughout the semester, and we're planning for them. But there are some things that we're not going to know, right? So I hate to bring this up, but we do have this Rumsfeld matrix, right? So there are the known knowns, the unknown knowns. The unknown knowns are the things that we don't know we know. The known unknowns, so things that we don't know. And then the unknown unknowns, right? So the things we don't know yet. So as we go through this matrix, you'll see there is a gradient of risk and a gradient of observability. So things that we have that we can predict on the horizon versus how much time it's going to take us to react to whatever that unknown is. So we want to mitigate the amount of time we're responding to all of the scenarios that can pop up in our course. So the things that we know about, we want to make sure that we plan up front, so that if things pop up in the middle of the semester, we're spending our time addressing those things as efficiently as possible. And how do we do that? So the things that we want to focus on, or that we're going to focus on right now, are staging resources, making communication clear, and then mechanisms for providing feedback. And we'll spend some time talking about these things. And before I go any further here, I'm just going to take a quick step back into the presentation window, and I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment. Make sure I don't stop the broadcast. Hi. And see if anybody has any questions before we get into the thick of making things efficient. I don't see anything in the Q&A panel for the moment, and I'll check back here shortly. So let's go back to screen sharing. Back to the presentation. Okay. So things we can do to help make things go smoothly for the upcoming semester, starting with resources. The lowest hanging fruit is making sure that we have documentation available for students for the tools that we know that we're going to be using in the course. So again, if we're using Blackboard, there are lots of Blackboard resources that we can point students to that will help them understand how they access their grades, or understand how they set up their UA email. If you have students working with particular tools throughout the semester, setting up some brief instructions, whether they be screencasts or linking them to articles about how they submit assignments on a, whether it's in Blackboard or whatever you're having them use. This is, it's obvious, but it's very important, and it's something that we can stage ahead of time before the semester starts, so we don't have to answer these support-related questions as the course is being delivered. And just as a note here at eLearning, if you have something, a tool that you're using in your course, and you want to know if there's already support out there, some documentation or a screencast that's already been created that you might reuse for your own course, please ask, because chances are that we've put together something in support of that tool for another course, whether it be creating posts in WordPress, screencasting in YouTube, or posting a video to YouTube. You know, there are many, many things that we've created resources for, and they can be a little bit difficult to find sometimes. But if you know that you need something, don't hesitate to ask, and we can help find that resource. And if we can't find it, we'll try and create it for you or point you in the right direction. So creating those resources for your students, and then course resources as well. So if you have collections, reading collections, I've seen instructors put together reading collections or collections of visual artists on Pinterest, tools like that. Making things easy for students to find, sending them all to one particular place to find those resources is really important too. It's part of just reducing that cognitive load for them navigating the course so that they can spend more time focusing on content rather than navigating the course itself. So that's all I have to say about resources for the moment. Let's move on to communication. So communication in your course is key, particularly if you are teaching an e-learning course, because many of your students aren't going to be in the same location, and specifically not at the same time. So providing avenues for communication that are consistent will help students feel like it's easy for them to communicate with each other. It helps build that classroom community, and it helps students feel more engaged in the class overall. So selecting a platform where students are going to be interacting, whether it be for an assignment, if it's for group work, if it's for individual assignments, or if it's just for office hours or a place for them to ask questions, I would recommend picking a particular tool and then supporting that tool and encouraging use by everybody in the class. So if you are working with, let's say, Blackboard, Canvas, or Moodle, the basic LMSs that we usually see come through here, and you're using the discussion board, keep pointing students back to the discussion board and encouraging discussion there. If you are using Google+, you can set up a Google+ community, and it can be a really low barrier way for students to make contribution to discussion and leave comments. And it can be away from their study time as well. So they can make these contributions from their laptop, they can make these contributions from an app on their phone. So depending on the type of conversation you want to facilitate in your course, that's going to dictate the tools that you're going to decide to use, but then stress the use for your students and keep directing them back there. I also mentioned Slack here because it's a really interesting way that you can facilitate a particular type of discussion. And if you've never seen Slack before, I'm just going to switch tabs here for a moment. It's a group it's a group communication tool, and you'll hear there are a lot of teams that'll use it for project management so that they can communicate around project-centric activities. So this is just an example channel here that we here in the office had set up a long time ago just to test out the interface. But what it lets you do is set up channels for a particular group. So channels revolve around topics, let's say. And you can also direct message individuals who are set up on a team, and you can also set up users who appear to be, let's say, bot users. Users who you may be managing, but who may appear to be a different person from your student's point of view. So there's some interesting workarounds and interesting interactions that you can create here in Slack. I mention it because we have a faculty member here on campus, Dr. Peter Wesley, who's used Slack in a really interesting way. And if you end up looking a little bit more into Slack and thinking it might be something you want to try in your course, please let us know and we can put you in touch with Dr. Wesley, and he can share with you, or we can too, more about his activities in his class and how you might use it in your own class. And I do know too, just to refer back to, I think it was presentation 4 in this Build a Course series that was, oh no, it was presentation 3, Developing Learning Activities and Interaction, and I think Janine did that one. She talked a little bit about the Dr. Peter Wesley's project in Slack, or the activity rather. So there are more details there as well. If you go back and look through the Build a Course series, you'll see it mentioned there a little bit more. So again, stressing where communication is going to happen in your course, and of course then providing resources to help students get started on that particular platform is very important. It's going to help you stage these, if you stage these things ahead of time, before the semester starts, you'll be able to focus more on the actual discussion rather than helping students get into the discussion itself. And then finally, avenues for feedback. To me, I teach a web graphics and multimedia class. And to me, staging the feedback ahead of time before the semester starts ends up saving me a lot of time as well. And what I do is identify, and I've taught this class for a number of semesters, I've identified questions that normally come up throughout the semester at particular times and in particular lessons, and I've created boilerplate messages that essentially I'll use either as announcements or I'll use as templates for emails to send out either when I get questions or as the semester is going on. I'll send out little announcements, little announcements where I know students are going to start thinking about these things. And I don't want to preempt all of their discovery. I want them to think about things for themselves, but I also want to answer a question one time and not 50 times, really. So there are some tools that I use for this, and I'll share a few with you here in this presentation. And again, I encourage you to come down if there are things that you might want to set up for your own class. There are a wealth of tools available online that can help do the very same things for the tools you might already be using in your course. So we can talk about ways that might happen for you that are helpful for you. Things that have helped me though, one, before I even really talk very much to students at all, I stress in the course that they are to use their University of Alaska email address. I know that they might prefer using a Gmail address or a Hotmail address. That's fine if that's where they go for email, but they need to forward their UA email then into whatever that other email address is that they prefer to use, because I will only communicate to them using their UA email address, and it makes my life easier in the long run, because then I know when I send an email out, they know they're supposed to be checking that email to get that communication, whether it's a direct email or if it's an announcement coming from Blackboard or Canvas or anything else that I have them using throughout the semester. So that's huge right there. And then as far as email is concerned, I'll set up canned responses. So I'm going to switch tabs here and show you how to set up canned responses for email. And these canned responses just give you a template to start from when you're answering questions that frequently come up. And so they appear as drafts. So I switched here in my view on the left into my drafts folder. And I have some examples here. I have a great meeting you template, and I have a pre-flight checklist boilerplate text template here. I don't have any student-centric templates for this particular example because I wanted to keep those private, honestly. But these are templates that I'll use here at work. So To set these up, first what you want to do is you can enable canned responses for Gmail. And if you're using your UA email address, because we're all using UA Google Tools, you will have this available as well. What you'll want to do is go to the upper right corner and switch to settings. And this is the settings view. And you'll notice there are tabs across the top. What you'll want to do is then click on Labs and search for canned responses. So I already have this enabled. If you don't see it, you can search in the search box here for canned responses, like so, and then enable that. So you can save changes and then enable canned responses. And what that'll let you do then is start creating these canned responses. So every semester we have a pre-flight checklist that we go through. So we go through some classes, and when I have to contact an instructor, there's nice things that I just like to talk about. You know, this is who I am, this is what we're doing, so it's not a very intrusive email. So I have a template set up here, and it's saved in my drafts folder. If I want to create any email based on that template, what I would do is go to Compose, and then I can select from this flyout here in the Compose window from canned responses. All my canned responses are sorted by subject, email subject. So if I had many more, you could see them all here. But I can say pre-flight checklist, that's what I want to use. Then, whoops. Of course, I did something wrong here. So canned responses, insert. Oh, I accidentally deleted it. That's not what I wanted to do. Great, for presentations. Well, I have a great to meet you, so I can just click on that one. And so you can see the one response that I have left here. It's filled everything in, and I can customize this. I can go back through and customize it as I need to, and then send it out. So I can do that with students if I know students often have difficulty with posting their first assignment or finding a particular resource. I can just have a canned response set up right away and answer those questions straight out of the gate. It just helps me save time. And so we have our canned responses. I also occasionally will gather these canned responses in Evernote too. I tend to use Evernote just as a brain to collect things. So for my course, CITS 221, I have a notebook put together in Evernote, and it goes semester by semester. And I keep in here the announcements that I send out, and I also track assignments. So for the announcements, I'll change how I word things semester by semester, and I want to keep a record of what I'm saying so I can go back later and either reuse text and customize it a little bit. So I can find links that I've used in the past, or any changes that I made in the new semester. It's just helpful for me. Instead of logging into Blackboard and then digging through my course, I just come dig through Evernote, and I found that, you know, it seems like it's taken me a lot of time to put this together, but it has not really. It's just a lot of copying and pasting, which is worth it to me to spend that little bit of time upfront, so I don't have to dig around in the middle of the semester to find some information. And I'll also, with assignments, I'll link student examples. So semester by semester, I'll allow students to submit their assignments and then ask them if they have a really great submission, if I can use it as an example in a subsequent lesson in a different semester. So I'll keep notes in here too, so that if I need to come back to something that they've done, I can share it out with other students, and that's been really handy too. I also keep notes in here on particular students in the semester. So if I have students who say that, you know, they know in the middle of the semester that they're their mom is going in for surgery. I keep my notes all in Evernote here, so I remember that these things are happening. Otherwise, I would lose track in my inbox, my email inbox, if I were trying to track these things there. So Evernote's been helpful for me to help save time with communication in the course. And then other things that you might find useful. It's hard to make recommendations across the board because everybody teaches a little bit differently, right? So the examples that I'm pulling out are either examples that I have found worked for me over a number of semesters or that we all have access to, so Google Tools, right? So with Google Tools, we all have access to Drive. And Drive can be a great way to help create efficiencies in your course too, because it's already set up. Your students already have access to it. Their login is the same as they use to log into Blackboard and their email, so they only need to remember that one password. They can save and submit their work. So there's a lot of things that make Google an interesting solution for things you might be doing in your course. What I want to show you are ways to give feedback and comment on particular assignments. So I have an example here that is put together in a Google Drive document. This is something I set up for a workshop that we did, I think, earlier this year. So what I asked the group who was in the workshop to make contributions to this Google Doc that you see here. And they went out and they found some text and they found some images and they made some drawings. So if I scroll down here, you can see some of the things that they've contributed, right? And as they're making these contributions, they can leave comments for each other. So you can see this participant here left a comment on the title, and they're just experimenting. But what I want to show you are some of the mechanics of how commenting works in Google Docs. So people are able to highlight text and then have a discussion around a particular passage inside of this document. And you can use this either as a discussion tool, or you can use it as a feedback tool between the student and yourself. There are a number of ways that this particular mechanism can work for you in an assignment. But it's really interesting to see how conversations go inside of a document, whether it's a working document shared within a group for people that are all contributing to the same resource, or if it's between you and an individual student working on a particular assignment. So maybe you have a student creating drafts and revising. You can leave comments and guidance for them within the document. And to note too, if you've not worked much with Google Docs before, there's revision control too. So under the file drop-down menu, you can review the revision history. So see revision history. So the day that I had all of the workshop participants contributing to this document, we can see a fairly granular view of how contributions were made throughout that particular time period. So you see it's a very compressed amount of time. It was like, what, 10:30 to 11 that they were working in this document. But we can step through and revert back to a particular state of time for this document and see who is making contributions and the contributions that they've made. So that can be a useful tool as well. All right, so I've talked to you about learning more about your learning management system. We've talked about course organization, and then finding efficiencies to help make your course go more smoothly as the semester is going along. And that efficiency piece is so important to me. For me, there's a period of time before the semester starts where I just find it very valuable to step back and think step by step, what is going to happen in the semester the way I wish it would go. It may not go like that exactly, but we know, there's going to be 14, 15 weeks There's going to be a final. There may be some assessments in between, whatever projects that you have set up. You can just think through step by step from a student's perspective. What is this all going to look like when I see it for the first time? Where am I supposed to go? How am I going to find these things? And having that student lens on your course can really help preemptively uncover hiccups that you would normally just kind of be surprised by when the semester is ambling along. So planning, it's freedom through discipline in a way, but making a plan so that you're not spending a lot of time doing things that you could have set in place at the beginning of the semester. Yeah. So resources, communication and feedback, things that we talked about, making plans for. I'm going to just jump back really quickly to the Q&A screen to see if there are any questions, and if not, I'm going to wrap things up here. It doesn't look like there's anything at the moment, so that's fine. As you're working on your course, I just want to make you aware that we have open lab time here at UAF eLearning. Tuesdays and Fridays, we have open lab set up in our conference rooms here in the office. And on Wednesdays, we have a virtual open lab from 1 to 3 p.m. So at 1 o'clock after this presentation, you can join us for an open lab at this link here, elearning.uaf.edu/go/virtual-open lab. And there'll be somebody manning the open lab every Wednesday at this time if you have questions but you can't come into the office. Or if you just can't come to campus that day, feel free to pop in. It's set up on a Google Hangout, just like this, except you'll be meeting with whomever is manning that lab in real time. It won't be a recording. We, like I said, also have face-to-face lab times available, and this link in the presentation takes you to our event calendar. So on I Teach You, we have a calendar page, and we have an embedded Google Calendar, so it has our open lab times here, and it also has some other training that we are offering and other training that's happening around campus too for faculty. It's all here in this calendar. It's a really great resource if you just want to follow along on what is available to you, whether it be help for course development or faculty development training, and also the things that OIT is putting together. That's all up here. And then finally, I just want to thank you and encourage you to contact me or any of us here at eLearning if you have questions that you want help with, or even if you just want to sit down and brainstorm some ideas for an activity or for a course. We love to do that too. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Ooh, before I sign off, maybe I'll hang around and see if there are any questions. Let's do that. I don't see any yet. So I'm going to close down this Hangout on air. But if you do have questions in the future, you can leave them as comments for this video, this recording on YouTube, or you can leave comments too on our Google Plus page for UAF eLearning. Thanks, and have a great afternoon.